Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Yesterday was National Pastry Day, Tony. You like pastries?
I'm Tony Kornheiser, you bet. People say I'm a lot like a fresh croissant. Hot and flaky. What do you think?
Oh, we got some flexing. Some flexing going on at the start of the show today, huh?
Flaky, I don't know if that refers to my personality or the fact that at my age my skin is falling apart. I have no idea at this point. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, will the Vikings reward Sam Darnold? Will the Heat trade Jimmy Butler? And will Bill Belichick end up at North Carolina? But we begin today with last night's punt return team debacle for Dallas. After the Cowboys blocked a Bengals punt late in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys' Amani Oruwariye, hope I got that right, tried to recover the ball and failed. Cincinnati covered the ball, got a fresh set of downs, and 3 plays later, Joe Burrow connected with Jamar Chase for a 40-yard game-winning touchdown with a minute left. Wilbon, how understandable was that Dallas mistake?
Tony, you know, on the pure football level, it isn't. Because it was interesting listening to Dominique Foxworth this morning, I think on Get Up, talk about, as a special teams player, which he did in the NFL for years, how often special teams coaches go over just that situation, like weekly. Like they don't cover it at the beginning of camp and then leave it alone. They go over it weekly, and he went into great detail talking about what should happen there. And so from that standpoint, it isn't. But then we often don't factor in the excitement level, the emotional level of sports. And a guy sees a ball and sees a lane or thinks he does and thinks he can return it and wants to squeeze it, and it's just the wrong thing to do, and it ultimately costs the game. And I don't know him. I think I feel for him in this situation. But football players purely say, no, we cover this all the time. This can't happen.
Yeah, 2 words come to mind, Leon Lett. That is in the folklore and the fabric of the Dallas Cowboys. And so you have to know you can't touch that ball. You have to get that from osmosis in Dallas after Leon Lett. I mean, this is so emblematic of the Cowboys' dismal season that they're out there and on national television, they make this terrible mistake and it costs them a game. And they've been so bad at home, Mike. They are 1-6 at home. These are the Dallas Cowboys. They're usually invincible at home. What do they say? That they put a hole in the roof so God could watch them play? You watch a game like that and you say to yourself, what is there more that can go wrong with Mike McCarthy? I mean, how many more signs do you have that this whole thing isn't working? But I feel like you feel in this regard. You're a football player. That ball is loose. Your instinct is to get on that ball. So it's not excusable because it's a bad play. But to me, it's sort of understandable that you would go for the ball. By the way, just a small mention here. Joe Burrow, another 3-touchdown game.
Another great game.
Another 300-yard plus game. Another one. And he's 5-8. And if they make that play, he's probably 4-9. Probably
Doesn't matter.
4-9. So
empty calories, those numbers. Analytics. Empty calories in his case. None of that is his fault. None. Sam Darnold, his play may be forcing the Vikings into a quarterback quandary. Darnold threw 5 touchdown passes Sunday, received MVP chants from the Minnesota fans. The 7th-year quarterback had been considered a bustola prior to signing this 1-year deal with the Vikes in March, who then drafted J.J. McCarthy to be their future in April. But McCarthy's injured, Darnold's excelling. So, Tony, should the Vikings pay Darnold as their long-term starter despite having drafted McCarthy at number 10?
I love this question. The question is, should Sam Darnold get paid? If you've watched ESPN in the last 3 years, the question's been asked 1,000 times. But this way, will the Cowboys pay Dak? Should Dak Prescott get paid? So if it's somebody else, very exciting to me that it's somebody else. Let's look at Darnold's numbers for a second because I wrote these down. 3,299 yards passing so far. That's 6th in the NFL. 28 touchdowns, 3rd in the NFL. 68.4 completion percentage, 7th in the NFL. 3rd-rated passer in the NFL, behind Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff. Ahead of Joe Burrow, ahead of Josh Allen. Should you pay him? And you're asking me this question, should you pay him because they've drafted J.J. McCarthy? What does J.J. McCarthy have to do with those numbers? Those numbers are good. You don't want to pay him for one reason, Mike. You're afraid that the Sam Darnold of the Minnesota Vikings is going to turn into the Sam Darnold of the New York Jets. You're afraid.
2 reasons.
So franchise him.
2.
So give him $40 million for 1 year. He makes $10 million now. It's 400 times what he makes.
There's that, and there's playing a rookie quarterback at his salary. So you can do all sorts of other things with the team. That was part of the Bears' quandary with whether to deal with keeping Justin Fields or drafting somebody who starts the clock over again in terms of salary with Caleb Williams as a rookie. So you've got that whole thing with the Vikings. You don't know whether Darnold's going to turn into, well, this is a Cinderella story or not. And at midnight, he's going to turn back into a pumpkin. You don't know.
Yeah.
But, Tony, it just seems if you could get him at, I don't know, somewhere between 30 or 40 a year, you're not giving him Dak's 60. You're not doing that. If you can get him between 30 and 40, maybe you say, wait a minute, we got a guy here who still should have a 4 or 5 year window of good play if you believe in him in that
27.
system with that coach.
He's not old. He's not like Geno Smith, another reclamation project who's 34. He's not that old. And by the way, McCarthy may be real good next year. This guy is real good now. On the field, real good. You got to consider that. Let's move to the NBA. And reporting by ESPN that the Miami Heat are open to listening to offers for Jimmy Butler and would move Butler for the right price. Butler is reportedly open to moving to Dallas, Houston, and Golden State. Wilbon, you love Jimmy Butler. Would it make sense for the Heat to trade him?
Yes. It would make sense on a number of levels, Tony. I don't know that Miami's particularly close to challenging Boston. Let's face it, that's what we're talking about here. And Jimmy Butler, I don't know, there seems to be a worn out his welcome sort of feel when you talk to people around the league and around the team and you listen to opinions. And I'm a Jimmy Butler guy. So, by the way, is a coach named Tibbs in New York who is closer to Boston and maybe thinks that Jimmy Butler, and I'm supposing now, but Tibbs coached Jimmy Butler already in Minnesota, loved him. So what? So Jimmy Butler wouldn't fit in New York. You got to figure out who to give up. I don't want to give up Josh Hart if it comes to that. Houston has assets and young players galore. That seems to be the place, Tony, that Jimmy Butler could go and make a difference right away. Houston's going to be in the playoffs, and Houston, man, they're the team that you look at and go, wow, a veteran there could make all the difference in the world, and Miami sees we could give back a young, terrific, talented player and a pick. It does kind of make sense. It does.
Yeah, I have a different view of this completely. Jimmy Butler has done what Miami asked him to do. He helped lead them to the finals 2 years ago.
Yes,
he's 35 now, and he's lost a little bit. You can't build for the future with Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler can go to a team and help them win a championship right now in the right mix. Miami just doesn't have that mix. So I'm okay for the trade. But I'd say Dallas. Of course I would say Dallas. Jimmy Butler had a playoff run a couple of years ago where he averaged 27 points a game in the playoffs. A couple of years before that, he averaged 26. He's the real playoff P, not that other guy. All right? He's a guy who gives you 18 a game in a regular season and then kills it in the playoffs. Now, you tell me how to guard a team right now with Luka Doncic, Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, and Kyrie Irving. Tell me how you beat that team.
Tony,
I mean, why couldn't he make them win?
He could. Yes, you're right. The issue is, what does Dallas have to give back to Miami? If I'm Miami and I'm making that deal, I'm not trying to help Dallas get to the finals again. I need something back. And if I'm Dallas, I ain't giving up Lively. It's tough. Houston has more assets to give up. And by the way, Houston can't jump to the finals this year, but they're maybe a year closer than people thought.
Dallas can win right now.
Dallas can.
Let's take a break. Coming up, are things more serious than we thought between Bill Belichick and North Carolina? We're going to ask UNC alum Jeff Saturday.
We'll also ask him about all the drama surrounding the Eagles and their passing games and their wideouts and their quarterbacks. Drama in Philly.
You know, I sort of want him to go.
You're right.
I want him to go to Golden State so I don't have to hear about LeBron going there, and you and I don't have to go back and forth every day about LeBron going to Golden State. That's wearing me out.
I'm one of the people advancing that. I'm one of the people who's out there with that.
It's wearing me out.
Cool.
Let's get back into the NFL with our great friend, ESPN NFL analyst, Jeff Saturday. Let's start with this, Jeff. You went to North Carolina. You're a Tar Heel. Played there.
Yes, sir.
How seriously do you take the possibility of Bill Belichick, that guy, Bill Belichick, being the next head coach in Chapel Hill?
Very serious. I think both parties are very interested, and they are pursuing it and moving forward pretty hard. And I think as Bill has kind of gone through the process, and how UNC has gone through the process, there's been some really cool names associated. And I'm happy because as a university and obviously as a football team, we're getting some of these names that are interested in our program, which is great for the university. But I think Bill is very interested, and I think that both sides are pushing forward and seeing what this thing could look like.
One of the names that I'm sure has come up who could be interested, but apparently is going to stay put, is Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator of the Steelers, and of course, a Carolina grad like you.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, why are things working so well for Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson? Because they're working well enough where he's like, I ain't worried about this other stuff right now. We got this on lock.
Yeah, I think he gives quarterbacks confidence to push the ball down the field. And so often in our game, you've always heard the terms, take what the defense gives you. And this is how it's going to work out. And I don't know if you guys ever watch like Mike Tomlin on the sidelines, but Russell Wilson will push the ball down the field in a one-on-one situation. And Tomlin loves it. And Arthur Smith loves that. They love being able to be aggressive and couple that with being a physical run team. And it allows for explosive plays. And that is a factor. Everybody talks about turnovers and all these kinds of things. Explosive plays and unintended explosive plays are a massive player in wins and losses in the NFL. And Arthur Smith has pushed Russell Wilson. He tried to push Justin Fields to do the same thing. But listen, Wilson is leading the league in 10-yard and 15-yard gains by air. And it's just an amazing feat when you think about where Russell Wilson was last year and now here.
We will stay in the state of Pennsylvania, but move to the Eagles because you have to get to the Eagles. And Brandon Graham telling people that there was, not beef, but he said Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown weren't on the same page. And then he says to ESPN, well, he's wrong. He shouldn't have said anything. Jeff, big deal, little deal, no deal or all was.
Wilson is leading the league in 10-yard and 15-yard gains by air. And it's just an amazing feat when you think about where Russell Wilson was last year and now here.
We will stay in the state of Pennsylvania, but move to the Eagles because you have to get to the Eagles. And Brandon Graham telling people that there was, not beef, but he said Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown weren't on the same page. And then he says to ESPN, well, he's wrong. He shouldn't have said anything. Jeff, big deal, little deal, no deal or all. What's going on with the Eagles in that situation?
I say little deal. I mean, here's what I think fans need to realize. We all get frustrated with each other. I think people think it's like kindergarten. Like, not everybody gets along all the time, right? This is a long season. It's a violent game where you're getting your body beat up, and AJ goes out and he only gets four targets, and you don't go practice all week to not get targeted, and you're watching Saquon Barkley break the all-time record or get close to it, and all that is well and good, but there's part of you as a player that wants some shine too, and you don't mind that, right? It's just the way you handle it matters. It's tone, tact, and timing. And that, when he was in after the game, had he just said, listen, I would like to see our passing game improve, and I need to be better, and we need Jalen to be better, and we need, Devontae, all of us, and Sirianni and Kellum, and include everybody. This is a non-star. It's a non-issue. But when you just say passing and you keep it cryptic, now you've let all of us into your issue, and it just becomes a distraction that's unnecessary.
Tone, tact, and timing. I like that. That is a wonderful phrase.
My wife, that's from my wife.
I'm going to go off book just for a second here. I'm going to go back to Bill Belichick because I think I need to ask this. He's maybe the greatest NFL coach of all time. College is not the NFL. Do you think coaching is coaching? Do you think it transfers? Or is it harder in one than the other?
No, I think coaching is coaching. And I think it'll be unique watching Bill have be able to coach the team for the Saturday games and then have an NIL and a recruiting department do the other part. I do not think he will do both. I think he is very process driven, and he will have a group do one. And let me just say this, because this needs to be said. This frustrates me to no end. How does Bill Belichick not have a job in the NFL? Like, it is insanity to me that he does not have a job. That just tells me about ownership and about general managers, man. That you wouldn't bring in the guy who has won more than anybody in our game. And even if you give him constraints, hey, I don't want you to be the general manager, I just want you. He is the only coach I've ever been around. This is honest to God truth. He can coach any position on the field. I've seen him at the Pro Bowl. I've seen the way he works. That he doesn't have a gig, it just amazes me. And so he loves to coach. So if he has to go coach in college, why not be a Tar Heel, baby?
Yes, thanks. I mean, my sense of this is that school had Dean Smith. They know how to deal with greatness. They know how to deal with, great legacy. So I assume he's going to get it. Do you assume he's going to get it? And I'll get you out on that.
Yeah, I think it'll be on his terms. I think that's going to be the issue. The recruiting, NIL, that side of the business, I'm sure Bill is going to have that chalked and that, really tightly. Hey, I need a group of people who handles this. I don't think he wants to get in the weeds of being in a 17-year-old or 15, even 15-year-olds now. They're recruiting all the way down. You're telling me he's going to go in there and go, hey, you're the next Lawrence Taylor? He won't call anybody the next Lawrence Taylor. So he dang sure going to go into some 15-year-old's room. So I think he's got to have a separate department. That will be the part that I want to see if he can balance those two. The coaching, he'll crush it. It's the other side that will be interesting for me.
Many thanks as always, Jeff. Thank you.
Jeff, that's great. Thank you, man.
Appreciate you.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Heisman finalists are announced. But is someone missing from that field?
And one number one ranked high school basketball player picks an unlikely school? Maybe. Nothing's unlikely, baby. Transfer Portland, NIL. It's all likely now.
Mike, I would have bet anything against Belichick at Carolina. I would have said this is a made-up story. It's not going to happen. Happy time, people. Happy 65th birthday, Mark Aguirre. Aguirre was a transcendent player at DePaul when DePaul was still great. DePaul was ranked number one in Aguirre's last year, but lost early in the NCAAs to St. Joseph's. People still remember Aguirre walking off the court and out of the gym in his uniform under a sweatsuit and walking 2 miles back to the team hotel by himself. He was the first overall pick in 1981 by Dallas, played for Dallas, Detroit, and the Clippers over 13 years, averaging 20 points and 5 rebounds. Aguirre was on the Bad Boy Pistons, who won back-to-back championships in 1989 and 1990. He came to the Pistons in a trade for Adrian Dantley and a first-round pick. That trade was key to the Pistons' championships.
Tony, I've been following Mark since he was in high school. Went to see him play in high school for Westinghouse High, and he was great then with my friends. Shout out to Eddie Johnson and Mike Jenkins, his teammates.
Rep passing game guru and won a Super Bowl ring as an assistant to Bill Walsh in San Francisco. Weiss was 61-66 coaching the Bengals and got them to the Super Bowl in 1988.
I loved being around Sam Weiss, Tony. There was a game once where he calls timeout. He's up like 42-6 on Jerry Glanville. He calls timeout with like 8 seconds to score again. And then he tells a few of us on the field, what are you waiting for? You want to come to my locker room to hear the explanation for why I ran it up on him. Nobody around today as cool as Sam Weiss. Nobody.
Happy trails to the Cardinals for Nolan Arenado. St. Louis team president John Mozeliak indicated yesterday that the team is likely to trade its third baseman to free up money as it rebuilds. The 33-year-old Arenado has 3 seasons and $74 million remaining on his deal, along with a no-trade clause. Mozeliak says Arenado, quote, is not demanding a trade. He's not telling me I have to do it, but in the best interest of both sides, I'd like to try to find him someplace to land, unquote. Arenado's home run and OPS were down last season, but in his career, he's made 8 All-Star teams. He's got 10 Gold Gloves.
Tony, I'd like to see him in the blue and white pinstripes, but there's no way the Cardinals can let Nolan Arenado, with a few good years left, maybe a couple of great years, go to the rival
Not
Cubs.
going to the Cubs.
I'm just saying.
You're not going to the Cubs.
If we could.
Stop, you're not going to the Cubs. Not going to the Cubs. Big finish. Here we go. Number one high school basketball prospect, A.J. Debonsa, hope I pronounced that right, committed to BYU. You surprised?
No, you can't be surprised at any commitments now with transfer portal, NIL. There's no surprises, none. The Heisman finalists are Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Dylan Gabriel, and Cam Ward. Anybody missing?
Shedeur Sanders. He's the best quarterback in the country. Why is he not in there?
I don't understand.
Georgia said it's exploring treatment options for Carson Beck's injured throwing elbow. Your thoughts?
That doesn't sound good for New Year's Day in the Sugar Bowl for Georgia. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's out there and can play. I hope. New number one, Tennessee in men's hoops hosts Miami tonight. Your prediction?
They both have orange in their uniform, so orange will win. But Miami's 0-6 in their last 6. Last one, NBA Cup quarters tonight. Magic Bucks, Mavs Thunder. Who you got in this thing?
Magic have no players left. Their stars are hurt. The Bucks are going to win that game probably, even though I'm rooting for Orlando. Well, I shouldn't say that. But OKC, Tone. OKC is the team for me this year.
We're out of time. We will try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the Apple Podcast. I always root for Doc, but I feel bad because Orlando doesn't have its stars.